we're getting 60% opens on our email. Like our clients that we've had for over a year, results get better every single month. Brands are able to generate 40% plus of their revenue from email. We have like a 95% client retention rate. Yo, welcome in. Sort of a different kind of video today. Going to be running through some Q&A with my Director of Ops, Mr. Michael LaFada. So what's up, Michael?
Not too much. How are we doing?
Fantastic. So have some sauce on email. So just like for some context, we run Wellcopy, premier email and SMS e-commerce marketing agency. We've worked with over 100 different 7 and 8 figure e-com brands to help scale their retention systems. And we've generated over $40 million in the process since doing that. In the past year, we've scaled from having 5 full-time employees at this time last year to now we have over 25 full-time employees, and then also contractors and whatnot, and we've 10x'd in revenue and profit in that time. So Michael got started with us like about a year ago. Started out writing copy, and he was in the trenches writing copy and did that for a few months, crushed it, became an account manager, did it for a few months, crushed it, and then he became director of ops, and then now he's just like pretty much partner, having profit share in the business. So we wouldn't be where we are without him. He's very experienced with like all the agency ops and whatnot. We've done a lot in the past 12 months, and I just want to run through, have a conversation on a lot of our frequently asked questions around email marketing and scaling a company this fast. So my question to you, one of the most asked questions, pretty general. What is the biggest lesson that you've learned from running an agency like this and scaling this fast? What's like the number one thing you've learned, and explain it a little bit.
100%. So, I mean, especially when you're scaling this fast and just have so many onboardings and clients and things going on every day in a service-based business, lesson number one that I've learned is it's all about the people that you bring on, essentially. The people that you decide to hire or not hire are going to make your life either significantly easier or significantly more difficult. And that's just like on the team side. And bringing on people that are hungry, that are eager to learn, and that are go-getters is one thing that in this world is unmatched. You know, systems are great and you can have all the systems in the world, but if you don't have the right people executing them and there every day, it's all largely going to fall through in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and we've had probably like 50 people be involved with our company, and like now we have like 25. Kind of a side question, but what do you think are the main character traits that like you look for? Because it's one thing to say like you got to bring in the right people. What are like the main character traits that you look for with someone when you want to delegate? Like the goal with hiring somebody is to completely free yourself of a task or mental bandwidth. So in like our experience of failing with a lot of people and succeeding with a lot of people, like what are the main character traits you're looking for?
There's a lot of things to consider, obviously, when you're bringing someone into your team. I would say, obviously, skill is a factor. You know, for email marketing, whatever type of agency you're running, you have to have some sort of base skill, but skill's not necessarily everything when it comes to hiring. You can have the most talented person in the world, but if they're not, you know, showing up every day and giving it their all or responding to clients or getting things out on time, it's pointless in a sense. So someone that's, you know, consistent, that's a go-getter. We're even open to taking on people that might have a little bit less experience, but we feel like they're going to crush it, they're going to excel in the role, and they may not come in with some of the, I don't know if I want to say bad habits or, you know, pre-established ways of doing things that might conflict or not or work against the systems that we have in place. So really just somebody at the end of the day that's consistent, open to learning and growth. You know, obviously being a culture fit's a huge thing. Someone that gets along with the team, someone that's showing up every day, asking great questions, and at the end of the day, like someone you'd want to go out, hang out with, grab a beer, whatever it is, but someone that fits your team culture, your team vibe. It's gonna improve the level and quality of things getting done tenfold.
100%. That's like the frat, would you get a beer with this guy? It's kind of like that for a team as well.
So I'll hop into the questions I have for you. One thing I'll just start off broad also is you say email is the most important channel for e-com. Explain yourself a little bit. Why? Why not ads? Why not SEO? Why not socials? Why email?
Yeah, 100%. So the thing that's different about email is it's the bottom of the funnel and it's the quickest access to people who already know, like, and trust you. And then on top of that, it's cheap. So all these platforms, whether it's ads, SEO, whatever, it's all about TikTok ads, doing all this like crazy stuff, different ways of acquisition. Those are all about acquisition, getting people to your website. They're all doing the same thing. They want to get people to the website to buy. The thing with email is it's after that step. It's really kind of the only thing that is underneath like the website. So you have attention, and then you have like website to get people to buy, and then you have email at the bottom. Email is just your way to contact people as cheaply as possible just with the click of a button. So a lot of the people, especially like today, with ad prices being so expensive and there's so many different ways to be overwhelmed with different acquisition channels, if you simplify things down, email is at the bottom of everything, and it's how you convert people. You can experiment with all sorts of different acquisition tools, but at the end of the day, email is at the bottom of the funnel. You need to hit people on multiple channels. You need to overcome their objections over time by having things like the welcome flow, sending campaigns, and these are what actually get people to purchase once you've harnessed their attention with things like ads or organic media to get them to the website. Email is what's at the bottom of the funnel. It's what is going to get these people to trust you enough to purchase. And then once they do purchase from you, it's how you keep consistent contact over them. The thing with ads, you can't really predict how many touch points you're giving a customer. You just don't really know as much like what you're saying. You can't really send nurture content on ads to keep people engaged with you. Somebody sees an ad, it's kind of just like, no, they know that you're trying to sell you. With email, you can send evergreen content to get people to continue, like, to educate them, and you know exactly what you're sending people every single day. You know exactly what touch points you're hitting. So it's just a lot more control with email, and it's the bottom of the funnel. I haven't even really talked about how cheap it is, because that is like the main amazing thing about email is it's so cheap. You get a click on an email that's way less than a click on an ad. Emails literally cost pennies to send, and anybody can do it, and it's just one click of a button, and you know exactly what's going to a ton of people, and it's just revenue. It's cheap. It's cheap revenue targeted towards people who already know, like, and trust you, the people who have your email address, and so it's just a no-brainer to have it, and it's why brands are able to generate 40% plus of their revenue from emails, because easiest access, people who already know, like, and trust you. These aren't cold traffic people. So bottom of the funnel, it's cheap, and you have a lot of control over it, and that's really just like why email is kind of like bread and butter, and why every brand who wants to scale like needs to have email dialed in.
Yeah, 100%. And like, just like you touched on, the ROI on email is the best you're going to get really across any sort of, marketing channel. And you have the opportunity to reach 5,000, 10,000, 100,000 people at the click of a button, that you can put whatever messaging you want in front of them, whether it's a time of the year, whether it's a sale, whether it's a launch, promotion, whatever it may be, that you just don't have that same control over ads like you were saying. And I guess I'll just go into kind of, while we're talking just about emails and what brands have to have in place, what's the bare minimum of emails that every, at least e-com brand, has to have in place, or should have in place, at least at a minimum?
Yeah, so bare minimums, if you want to have things set up, like obviously the more you have set up, the better, but at the end of the day, you just need to have the bases in place. Like, that's going to generate 80% of your success, is having the bases, and you're not going to be able to scale without them. So the bases that you need to have with email is you need to have like core flows with at least, usually you want a minimum like 20 emails in the flows. Like, obviously, like for our clients, we're building like more advanced 40 to 60 email flows, but you want to have at least like 20 across all the core triggers. So things like the welcome flow after somebody joins the list, the abandonment flows like the site abandon, browse abandon, cart abandon, and checkout abandon. You need all those in place with at least a couple emails in each to give people proper reminders to go back to your site. And then you have like your post-purchase stuff. So your post-purchase flow, trying to get some upsells and help with the customer experience as well. You can do a couple different things with your post-purchase flow. And then things like replenishment reminder flows, reminding of purchases, and then like the win-back flow to get people who bought a while ago to buy again. And then things like sunset flow, for example, to like clean your list. So you need to have those core flows in place. So on top of the core flows, you also need to be sending consistent email campaigns. At minimum, 2 campaigns a week. Some people think that's a lot because they're sending once a month, but it's not. With the amount of emails that brands are sending these days, it's easy for people to forget about you. So you need to be sending at this frequency, and you can send at this frequency and generate good results as long as you're not spamming just like discount, buy our stuff. Send educational information, overcome objections, talk about like community stuff, and then you can send at this frequency. Our brands, that 7 and 8 figure brands that we're generating 40% of revenue from email for, we're sending 3 to 4 times a week, and we're getting 60% opens on our emails, because if you send good content, people enjoy it, and you get consistent revenue coming in. So I'm going to say have the basis set up, have at least 2 to 3 emails in your core flows that I listed earlier, send at minimum 2 email campaigns per week, and then have just a dialed pop-up form. So pop-up form is super important to be able to get as much of your site traffic. You're spending a ton on ads, you're bringing people to your site, but they're leaving and you don't get anything out of it. A good pop-up form allows you to get more out of your site traffic. You're able to send these people emails to eventually get them to buy. So you want a pop-up form that's converting at least 6% of your website traffic. Ideally, we want to be at like 10%. So if you bring 30,000 viewers to your website on a given month, then you're going to get 3,000 people to sign up to the email list. So those are the bases. Base flows, 2 campaigns per week minimum, and then have a good pop-up form. That's really it. Don't need to do any crazy segmentation. You don't need to do any insane flows. That's all just micro optimizations that you can do later. Just get those bases in place and you can generate like really, really good results that can help you scale. So that's what I'd say.
Yeah, and just doing all of that helps keep your brand at top of mind. Like the reality is with all the stuff on the internet, whether it's, being bombarded with a bunch of ads, bunch of emails, people's attention spans on TikTok, Instagram, whatever it is, like you have to be proactive in how you stay top of mind and reach out to your customer and make sure they don't forget about you. Because if you're not sending consistent emails or SMS or whatever it may be, you are going to get forgotten about and just fall into the long line of brands that they saw and then never bought from.
100%. So those bases are obviously like what we're building out for clients like that work with us in the first 30 to 60 days. It can be a lot and there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. Flows, campaigns, doing all the copy, doing all the design and everything. So could you walk us through just like the onboarding process for we sign a new client, I bring in like a brand, they're a multi-seven-figure brand, they have some base stuff with their email strategy, but they're coming in to hire us to really take it to the next level. So can you walk me through just like a 90-day onboarding process or 90-day just like set system? What's the timeline? What are we doing? And kind of like what the order is. Could you talk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, 100%. So the first thing with any new client that's getting onboarded is we start with a kickoff call, which is myself, our account manager, and then the client, of course. So we go through the kickoff form that they give us, which talks about brand, target audience, brand voice, copy guidelines, things of that nature. So we just go not quite step by step, but just ask any questions that we're going to need in the beginning. What the plan is, if there's new launches coming up, what sort of nuances that we have in any of the flows, things of that nature to give us a better idea and a foundation of kind of what we need to tackle. Then after that, kind of the first week goes into, some of the back-end Klaviyo stuff, getting everybody into Slack, including the client. We have a combined Slack channel that'll have all of us, we'll have all our constant communication. Then it starts to get into actually building out the base flows, which is the first step. And just going kind of bigger picture still, we have 3 phases essentially. So analyze, create, elevate. The analyzing stage is really the first week with the kickoff call, seeing what's going on with the brand, seeing what's set up, seeing what we have in Klaviyo, what we need to optimize, and kind of our starting base and getting our foundation. Then we get into the create phase, which is where we start writing the copy, we start getting all that, doing all the product research, getting that over to our designers to start building out the flows, which are going to come first, which you'll start getting in the first 2 to 4 weeks, getting 1 to 2 flows a week and getting everything set up there. So we have, like Max was saying earlier, all the bases. Right around 3 weeks, we start sending out those consistent campaigns, 2 to 3 a week, depending on how warm the list is and kind of what the overall goals are with the client, just to get everything up and running, make sure the list is nice and healthy, and that everything's in order there with open rates, click rates, and things of that nature. And then that's really after the create phase, we get into elevate, which is more in the 60 to 90 day mark, which is where we start looking at, okay, we implemented all these flows. Where are we hitting the mark? Where are we doing well? Where are we falling short? Could we have some more A/B tests? And where are we really seeing the best results? And then from there, obviously elevating and optimizing and really creating and making this getting everything to the best place that it possibly can be at. So starting off with analyzing, going through, doing the research, making sure, checking out what we have currently in Klaviyo, creating the pop-up form, creating the base flows, start getting campaigns out and making sure, we're fully on the same page with the client and that everything's good. And then elevate, which is a 60 to 90 day mark, is really just optimizing and getting the absolute best conversion, getting everything set up to where we want them to be.
100%. And a lot of people ask, like, aren't you doing like most of the work in like the first like 60 days with getting all the flows set up and like everything? But that's really just the beginning. Like elevate really is just like the last ongoing phase where you start to really see results starting like 120 days after working with us. And then it just only gets better. Like our clients that we've had for over a year, results get better every single month as we continue to learn more, we continue to test, we build upon our current flows, we apply what we're learning in our campaigns into our flows. We're taking our best campaigns and moving them into flows. Like if it does well in a campaign, we can move it in a flow and optimize it. That's one of the things like where really the most value comes is in Elevate, in the long-term partnership, and then us picking up like different areas inside the business where we can help out, like clients asking us to do like some of their social media copy, or you're having us put together listicles and landing pages and stuff. That's stuff that like we're able to do, and that's like the stuff that like happens after the Elevate phase. But we have to get the bases in place, and then we'll go back and revisit and then optimize over time.
Yeah, and there's no shortage of tests and areas where we can always be improving, whether it's in the pop-ups, whether it's in the flows, whether it's testing send times, send days. All of this, people don't think about it much, but it does matter, and it does make a difference in the revenue we see and the results, and that's why, we continually are able to keep our clients happy and delivering for them. And Max, we recently took a brand from 20K a month from email to about 200K a month, and they scaled from 300K a month store revenue to about 5 or 600K in the process. What did we do exactly? Like, tell everyone exactly, what that process was like from kickoff and then all the way to where we are today.
Yeah, so that only took 120 days, and it's literally just by following the process that you just outlined. Like, everybody really tries to overcomplicate it, but let me talk a little bit because this was more of a nuanced case. This was a brand that hadn't really ever done email. They had a couple abandoned cart emails set up. They were doing $20,000 a month just from some of the cart abandoned welcome flow emails and whatnot. And their store revenue was about $300,000. So the thing with new accounts that don't really send emails is they have no deliverability. So your deliverability is how often are you landing in the inbox versus the spam folder. And if you're not really sending emails that often, you've no reputation in front of Google. They think you're a fresh domain and they don't trust you. And so when you do send emails, you land in the spam folder. So that was one of the real issues when we came in. No emails really set up, bad deliverability. And so what we had to do is we had to ramp things up. We had to ramp up their deliverability and warm things up. How we do that is you start off with the base flows, but you only start with the first email in each flow, and you incorporate a lot of text within that so that you have a lot of text versus images, which is going to help with your inbox placement. You're just making sure it's optimized for getting a lot of clicks, because with every click we get, we're going to improve the reputation. So we set up these base flows, and over time, the flows just are sending emails throughout the day. It's not like you blast an email all at once. You're sending to 10,000 people. That's not how flows work. Flows activate when somebody adds an item to their cart and leaves. So you'll get one email sent at 12:30 and then another being sent at 12:45, just because that's when people enter. So this gradually is going to boost our reputation because these are high engaging flows. And on the campaign side, we went straight to sending 3 to 4 email campaigns a week. When you have no reputation, you want to build it fast, you need to send with volume. Google, Yahoo, inbox providers, they like volume. They want to see that you're sending emails at a high volume to prove that you're real. And so we started sending 3 to 4 times per week, but slowly ramping up the lists and taking the most engaged people and continuing to send to them. So starting off by sending to 100, 200 people. Then the next send, we send to 300 people, and then we send to 500 and then 700 and slowly ramp things up. And so we just trusted the process, create high engaging emails that converted well, slowly added on more emails to the flows over time as our reputation got better to the point where now 120 days later, we have over 50 emails in the flows firing, getting over 50% opens. We're sending to over 10,000 people at once, and we're generating over $200,000 a month from email. So we added $200,000 a month in email revenue. Their top line went from $300,000 to $550,000 per month. So exactly how email scaled, their store revenue scaled. Came from nothing. Definitely a good case study. Definitely a fun one. Yeah, that's pretty much the majority of it. Am I missing anything with that? I know you're more in the weeds on that, so I might have oversimplified it.
No, not too much. I mean, everything we did with them was, relatively the same kind of basic structure that we've been talking about this whole time. It's just really the deliverability was completely shot. In the beginning, we realized a lot of, what we were sending out, it wasn't getting it either had high bounce rates, it was definitely going into spam. And obviously going into a new account, those are things we have to test out. But once we're able to recognize it, we can address it, slowly, warming, building up that domain reputation. Because a lot of people probably think if you have bad deliverability, why would you be sending more emails? Well, it's because Google and Yahoo and whatever the inbox provider is needs more data to go off of. If you're never sending, they have no data on if you're reputable or not. They just see an email that's not really sending to anyone and nobody's opening them. But if you start with small engaged segments and start sending to them frequently, where there's 40, 50, 60% of the list of that list engaged segment opening it, Google starts to see, hey, this might be, this is a legitimate company. People are interested in what they're seeing, and they will continue to forward that to people's primary inbox. The same way YouTube or Instagram or whoever has tailored content to you, and they don't want to feed you information that they think isn't worthwhile or that you won't be interested in. So deliverability is a huge factor. It's super, I don't want to say it's not a difficult thing to obtain, but I think a lot of brands just go balls to the wall and they're like, yeah, I want to send to all 100,000 people here. Well, the reality is 10 or 15% of that list is completely unengaged. They might be fake profiles. They might have, switched emails, whatever it is. Other 20,000 in there may really rarely ever check their email. So you have to find what your engaged segment is to build up your deliverability. Once you build up your deliverability, then you're consistently landing in your primary inbox. You find your most engaged customers, and your emails really have a real impact.
100%. Love it. Lots of sauce there. Yeah, that's a good case study. So results are one thing. Those are definitely a big part of client like retention and dealing with clients for a long time or working with clients for a long time, building those relationships. And, we have like a 95% or we do have a 95% client retention rate, which not a lot of agencies really do. A lot of agencies, they just churn and burn through clients. So could you talk about like what you think our biggest factors are, like us as an agency, Wellcopy, on having a 95% client retention rate? Like, what do you think those main things are that keep clients with us and keep them happy and working with us for a long time? Even though our contracts are month to month, brands can cancel with us anytime, but they keep working with us over and over again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you touched on it, but 100%, obviously, results are part of it. If we're continuing to make you money, you're going to stick around because what we're doing is working and what we're doing is going well. And why would you, change that up? So consistently being able to really deliver those results and make the investment in an agency worth it. But furthermore than that, which is a pretty obvious one, constant communication and customer experience are the two biggest things of why clients continue to stay with us and don't decide to churn or bring it in-house or do it themselves, whatever it may be. There's been clients that have been here for, obviously a long time. And the reason is because they don't view us as contractors, nor do we act like contractors. We act like genuine partners that want to see them excel, and creating that relationship through constant communication, sharing results, and frequently doing it. Nobody wants to hire an agency and then hear radio silence on the other end, because even if you're doing a ton of stuff in the back end and you're doing everything right, if you don't communicate that over to the client, they have no idea what's going on. So constantly sending over results or what we're doing behind the scenes, what we're working on, even just so that they're constantly in the loop and always know what we're doing to further their brand, further their cause, and just always being there when they need things, because it's the nature of a service-based business. The nature of e-com is things come up and we have to be able to problem solve and be there for them when something goes wrong. Maybe there's a trigger that's not firing right. Maybe there is an update to the Shopify theme. Who knows what it might be? But really just creating that customer experience where they don't just have a contractor, but they really have a partner in there, fully in the trenches with them, and pumping out results and flows and deliverables that convert and are making the money, and communicating all of that through the process.
Yeah, 100%. It's one thing to say like have good client communication, but like how do you quantify that? So I want to like add on and give you like another question. So kind of like what our process is for client communication. So brand signs to work with us. What can they expect? Like, what's our communication cadence? How often are they hearing from us? When are they getting updates? What do the updates look like? Could you talk through that a little bit?
Sure. So starting out a bit more broad, then I'll go to the day-to-day, but we have monthly and quarterly reports, which we're constantly sending over to our clients when it's, either the end of the month or the end of the quarter, and giving them all the data that they're interested in, showing them, the leaps and bounds we've made over email, or even if something's maybe not performed, this isn't a perfect world. If something's maybe not looking the best metrics wise, explain what problems we're seeing in those reports and how we plan to make it better. So constantly sharing results on a monthly or quarterly level, but also breaking it down even further to a weekly level. So our account managers every Monday are going into our client Slack channels and giving them just a quick Monday report basically on what happened the week before, what sort of results we had, what the top performing campaign was. Obviously variable depending on the client, but talking about the past week. And then we have a little section about what's upcoming. So hey, we're working on the cart abandon flow for you. Should have it Wednesday. Plan on sending out 3 campaigns this week. They're in Figma for you to review, and whatever it may be. Just like I said earlier, communicating what we're doing behind the scenes and making sure they're always in the loop in terms of the numbers or just what we're working on, what's upcoming, what they have for review, whatever it may be. And even breaking it down further than that, we're always communicating with our clients inside of Slack. I'd say 3 times a week at a minimum, but realistically it's 4 to 5 days a week we're in there. Because if you're 2 weeks ahead on an account, there may not be, something pressing that you guys gotta figure out in Slack or something super needs to get done right now. Because ideally, and the way we work is, working a week or 2 ahead, there's not always something urgent to report, but even sharing things like little numbers, like sharing what the pop-up form did last week, sharing an A/B test that we decided to put in the browse abandonment flow, whatever it may be, just showing them that there are constant updates going on, whether it looks like it or not, that's past just like sending campaigns, getting reviews, getting things sent out, that there's a lot more going on behind the scenes and showing them what's going on in their company, in their Klaviyo. And I think that's something that clients really appreciate, and one of the reasons why they continue to stick with us for months on end and why our churn rate is where it is.
Absolutely. So it's like we have our quarterly reports, we have our monthly reports, and then we have our Monday reports. And then we have like our day-to-day as well, where it's day-to-day communication. Client requests something, we're going to respond within an hour during the weekday. Like usually a lot of our account managers are on it like instantly. But it really does, like some clients we're communicating all throughout the day in Slack, where if they're like a more intricate project or they have a lot going on, where some it's like they kind of just want us to run their emails. Like we're just adaptable and everybody's trained to be able to deal with like whatever situation. So it really is just that. And then we also, of course, meetings as well. At minimum, we have a monthly meeting with clients to review results, touch base on calendar and everything. Some clients as frequently as weekly, other clients every other week. Just depends on the client and their needs and what it takes to like generate them the best results. Like clients where they're dropping an item every week and we need to touch base on assets, then we'll have a weekly call with them. It just depends client to client. So yeah, for sure, I think that communication cadence has had a lot of success for us, and I think it's like, again, like you said, like one of the reasons that clients like do stick with us.
100%. Another question I kind of had for you was some of the bigger brands that we're working with, like some of the 8-figure brands that are bringing in a ton organically on email, all of it. What are some things that they do in their email marketing that other brands aren't doing, and what differentiates them?
Yeah. So as far as like what the big brands are doing that like other brands aren't, is they're really not doing that much differently. Like everybody thinks like, oh, these top brands are doing this crazy stuff with email. The truth is like they aren't. They're just executing the basics at a high level. All their core flows are absolutely dialed. They're constantly testing. They're consistently sending email campaigns 4 times a week, every other day consistently. And they're making those emails super quality, giving value to the customer. Really good on-point copy. Awesome dopamine releasing designs that keep the customers coming back and keep your list engaged and keep people from unsubscribing. They're just doing that consistently, just executing these basics. They don't have this crazy flow, hyper automation stuff, hyper personalization where they're segmenting their list by their favorite ice cream flavor and sending them custom emails. No, nobody does that. That takes too much time. That's low leverage. They're focused on the high leverage. Their abandonment flows, like how do the emails look? What are the objections that you're overcoming? And they've just tested these things, and we're sending emails like just at a high level. The basics, they're sending the same amount 3 to 4 times a week. They're sending that, and they have the same flows set up. They're just doing it at a high level, and that's really all it is just making sure that you have the time to really put together quality emails, to put together strategic emails that are overcoming certain things, reviewing the performance of like your past emails, what's performing well, and how can we apply that to our new performance. That's really all it is. There's not some crazy wizardry that these 8-figure brands are doing. They're just executing the basics, and they're executing them well based on the data that they're getting and reviewing, which like for us, for example, we're reviewing that data every single week and then also every single month on a wider level. So we're always able to like see what's working, how can we apply it to the future. It's really not some crazy wizardry that they're doing.
Yeah, 100%. And I think like one of the basic themes here and just like how we operate in general is philosophy of less is more. And a lot of aspects of this, just getting the bases in order, doing the little things well, and kind of sticking to the fundamentals. And that's something that these bigger brands that we've seen get there, that's kind of what they're consistently doing. What are some key components of high converting email designs that they do or other brands do that some people might be missing the mark on?
Yeah. Easy low-hanging fruit with your emails is just like button placement. Big buttons high up in the email above the fold. So above the fold is when somebody opens your email, what exactly of the email are they seeing? Do they have to scroll? And so if you can have clear headline, strong graphic, and then a big button, value proposition right when somebody opens the email, that's what you see like all the big brands doing who are actually doing email right. Just because someone's a big brand doesn't mean they're good at email, but all the brands who are good at email and they're big brands because of their email, that's what they're doing. So that's really like one of the main things. And then just the flow of your email. Is it pretty? Do you have clean transitions? Because that's what's going to keep somebody scrolling. If you have blocky emails, it gives every time a customer reaches a new block, they're thinking about exiting their app. So keeping things flowy, keeping your emails simple. So a customer isn't despising opening their email because they know they're going to have to read 1,000 words. No, if you keep your emails simple, make it easy for the dopamine craving customer and TikTok addicted person that everybody is, including myself, then they're going to keep coming back to your emails. And on top of that, so that's just like on the design, copy side of things, but you also want to make sure that you're displaying value correctly. And so giving value, of course, your email shouldn't just be buy our stuff, everything about you. Giving tips and tricks, showing people how to use your product, how to get the most out of your product. If you sell like hiking boots, you can send emails about like the best hikes in North America, like bucket list hikes, like that sort of stuff. Like giving value is going to keep your engagement high, get people to trust you to want to make a purchase. And you also, like with your design and high converting design, you want to display all that information properly. If you have stats, you don't just want to say our product has a 94% success rate. You want to have graphs showing 94 people out of 100. You could circle 94 people and then leave out like 6 people and show that information. People love infographics. The more you can use infographics, the better your emails are going to convert. People don't want to read, they want to visually see things. That just works better. So kind of to summarize that, high converting email design, optimized above the fold section with clear value proposition, strong graphic, and a button. The whole email flows. It's quick. It's nothing too crazy. And then you're giving value to the customer as well is really just like all that it takes. And on top of that, so I'm going to kind of mix in 2 questions here. First, I want to hear about the step-by-step process for us. We're creating 600, 700 emails every single month for our clients. So like, what's our process exactly for creating an email from ideation to clicking send? Like, how are we coming up with the strategy? And then how are we clicking send? And then also a big part of that is the client review process where the client's reviewing the email and leaving revisions. So I want you to talk through that with a little bit more depth. So can you talk me through step by step from ideation to implementing an email, and then go a little bit more in depth on like client feedback, how we process client feedback, as well as revisions?
Yeah, 100%. So obviously every, email, like you said, starts in the ideation phase. We have our account manager, obviously, as you get more familiar with the brand as well, come up with different, more creative angles. The actual process, so it starts actually the month before. We're in end of November right now. We're getting the December calendars ready, and most of them are already set. So we have the calendar. In terms of each individual email, it all starts in the copy phase. So copywriter goes in, takes a look at what angle we're taking on any given email, writes the copy in our templates, pass it off to our designer who designs, works their magic, creates something absolutely beautiful. Then after that's done, our account manager gets notified that, hey, an email's ready. So they go in, take a look at it, make sure it's, on brand, because our account manager is the one communicating with our clients every day, knows some of the more nuanced stuff, some of the things that really work well inside Klaviyo, and they kind of add their 2 cents in, change anything up if needed, and then they send it over to the client. So this is kind of getting into what you were talking about with the client feedback and making revisions. So once we send it over to the client, not to get too technical, but they get an automation in Slack saying, hey, this campaign is ready for your review. They click on that, go into Figma, take a look at the email, and they're able to comment very easily on certain areas that might need to be revised. Maybe the wording needs updated, different graphic, whatever it may be. And then they go back and forth a little with the account manager, make a round of revisions. Account manager is the one who goes in and typically makes, all of those changes. Something a little more design heavy, the designer will step in and then send it back to the client for review. The client will let us know if it's good to go, if there's anything else that needs to get updated. But once it's good to go, our Klaviyo technician will take it, upload it into Klaviyo, and set up some of the lists and segments. And then our account manager goes in a little bit later and gets everything scheduled, make sure the list segments, exclusions are correct, make sure all the links are right in the email, make sure everything's, sliced perfectly and looks exactly how it did in Figma. And then we go on and get it scheduled. So that's kind of the process from A to Z of how an email gets created. Obviously, the revision process is, depending on the brand, some are a little bit easier than others off the bat. Some of them take a little more work to get right, just as it's a new brand, a new voice, different copy guidelines, and things that we might take a little bit of time to get used to. We always tell clients, everything might not be perfect on the first go around, but guaranteed that we will get it. And 10 out of 10 times, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months in, revisions are much, much smaller. None of it's really the branding guidelines as much as, what might be happening at that specific time. So maybe for a campaign or a blog email, we might have to update some things if there's different code we have to use or the discount changes. The revisions become more like that opposed to the branding after we have some time to work with it, get everything right. And then by 3 months in, we know the brand like the back of our hand, and we're able to implement these and make that revision process super smooth for clients.
100%. Truth is, as much as we'd love to get your brand perfectly, you know the brand better than anybody as the brand owner. We're not going to know all the nuances after just like 1 week of knowing the brand. So it's not going to be perfect on the first go. This is why we have unlimited revisions. This is why we're communicating so often with our clients and making these revisions as fast as we can, because we're not going to be perfect on the first go. But I can tell you for damn certain, we're going to be taking notes on the revisions and applying them to all the future emails to make sure that by that 3 to 4 month mark, everything's locked in. You're not making any more branding comments for our emails, and things are a lot easier.
What's a quick email hack that e-com brands can implement today to make more money?
Founder text-based emails. Don't do the crazy graphics all the time. Mix in an email from the founder. Just be like, hey, I'm Max from Wellcopy. Wanted to personally reach out and let you know about blah, 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 whatever it may be. Make it text-based, don't have any graphics, just make it show up native to the person's inbox, which you can do with any inbox provider, whether it's Klaviyo, MailChimp, whatever. And just send the founder-based email. It's super easy for the customer to read. It feels personal. It just looks like it's coming from a friend, and it converts like crazy. You can send these as campaigns, use them intentionally in certain areas of your flows, like the cart abandon flow, checkout abandon. You can send messages from the founder reaching out for support, as well as the welcome flow, a post-purchase thank you message. Just start experimenting with founder-based, text-based emails because they perform really, really well.
Yeah, no, 100%. And when in doubt, shoot a text-based emails out. I don't know why people sleep on them. They see other companies always running these different. It doesn't always have to be fancy. Going back to less is more. Text-based emails do phenomenal, and I don't know why they're so slept on. What's the favorite email campaign you've ever created?
Yeah, so my favorite that we've ever done was for Gains in Bulk, and it was just an email saying our creatine isn't cheap. It's a very premium product. It's the best in the game, best creatine. And so rather than try to like overcome pricing objections, we just create an email saying like straight up like our creatine's not cheap. We could make it cheaper, but then we'd have to cut out on this feature on the product, this feature on the product, this feature on the product, like being like backed by certain organizations, being all of them being quality tested and 100% pure. So you're kind of just like backing the customer into a corner and just justifying your price without being like too pushy. You're just telling them like, hey, we understand our creatine isn't cheap. It's not for everybody. This is only for people who are wanting to invest in the best to their body, and it absolutely crushed one of the best performing emails. And now we use that in our cart and checkout abandon flows to overcome that pricing objection. Just be like, hey, if you're not willing to spend $39 on this creatine, then it's not for you. This is just for the high achievers. And so that's probably my favorite, where we addressed that price objection just like up front, and I thought it was executed really well.
Hell yeah. And it killed, if I'm remembering it correctly.
It did.
What's the best time to send emails?
So a lot of people are like, oh, send night emails, send emails like 6 p.m., 7 p.m. when people are off work. Don't do this for email. For text, that can work well because right when you receive a text message, you check your phone. It's slightly different for email. Not everybody has notifications on their email, and not everybody are looking at every single email that's being sent to them at the same time. So I like to send emails earlier in the day, before noon, ideally like 10, 11 a.m. or like 1 to 2 p.m. Now, why is that? You give somebody the opportunity to open your email all throughout the day. So somebody is checking their email maybe like twice a day. They'll check it like 4 p.m. or they'll check it like noon. If you send an email at 7 p.m., not a lot of people really check their email past 7 p.m. And so if you send earlier in the day, you're able to get the opportunity to get all these people to open your emails all throughout the day. Because if an email is sent at 8 a.m., somebody's checking their email at 7 p.m., they're still going to see it. And so that's just, I always recommend sending earlier in the day. It just works a lot better. So you talked about email account managers. They're doing a lot of the strategy and they're dealing with clients. And it's one of the positions that are the most important. So what is the most important trait that you look for in an email marketing account manager who's going to be dealing with our clients?
Especially from a dealing with clients perspective, communication. We touched on it earlier when we were talking about kind of what differentiates us, our approach to client reporting, but someone with extremely strong communication skills, someone that you feel comfortable hopping on a client call without maybe me or you there. And at the end of the day, I think that's the absolute biggest one, because if they're able to communicate well with the client, that means more likely than not, they're also communicating well with the team, with their copywriters, designers, whoever it may be internally, to create the best possible outcome and make sure things are getting done on track. So yeah, I'd boil it down all the communication.
So we have account managers. You said they're working with copywriters, designers, and whatnot. Talk about a little bit, just briefly, like the structure at our agency. How do we structure different team members? How does this all work? What's like the org structure like? Who's working on the account? Talk briefly about how we structure everything when we're working with 50 different clients at once.
Yeah, 100%. So obviously, we're one big team, but broken up into smaller teams, which we referred to as our pods. So each pod is going to consist of an account manager, designer, copywriter, and then a Klaviyo technician who's going to be the one implementing all the emails into Klaviyo. By doing this and making this shift, it's allowed us to really, build the culture of these smaller teams. So it's the same people, the same account manager, same designer, same copywriter, all working with each other consistently. So the workflow is incredibly smooth. Also, they're working on the same brands all the time. Each pod will manage between 4 and 7 accounts typically. And by doing this, you don't have one designer working with this copywriter and then this account manager's in the Klaviyo. No, it's all very consolidated and lean in a sense, so that they're meeting 3 times a week. They're always on the same page with any revisions, any changes in the account, what we need to do differently, what what's working. And that just consistently allows things to work very, very smoothly. Also, it's just incredible seeing, these pods like grow. Like obviously it's in a remote environment, but you see the relationships build over time. And then the workflow, the work itself, the team culture, all of that just improves tenfold from that.
100%. Yeah, we dealt with issues with not having pods. So like a copywriter would be working with a couple different account managers, or a designer is jumping in here and there. But once we split to like pods, and it's like, this is your team, this is your squad, get to know each other really well, build some chemistry. And yeah, we just noticed huge increase in productivity, and then also client satisfaction was huge. Cool. Well, I think we didn't get to all of our questions, but I think there's a ton of stuff there. We definitely yapped more than I thought, but we're known for yapping. So hopefully that was helpful for a lot of people. If you made it this far, I hope you kept some brain cells, but appreciate you watching to the end of this. Be on the lookout for more videos. Awesome. Good stuff. Thank you, Mr. Michael, for taking the time. Let's go back to making some e-com brands some more money. So adios, amigos, and let us know if you have any more questions. Maybe we can make another one of these. All right. Peace.